Hi there, welcome back to the allotment. Join me here on another lovely afternoon. I've been quite busy, planted a few things that won't be ready until winter, things like kale, broccoli, some cabbage today. Also done a bit of weeding. I mean, there's no getting away from that. Everything's growing this time of the year, even the weeds, sadly. But of course, I've picked some things as well. It's not just about you know sowing, but it's also about harvesting as well. And I know some people do like to see what we've harvested. So we've got some more of these lovely little radishes that I've pulled up. They're very nice, really peppery when they're that small. Very nice in a salad. And also another bunch of this lovely rainbow chard. We've got a whole field of that just down at the bottom of the plot there, and actually have chop that up and put it on a pizza tonight, I think, which I'm very much looking forward to. And very exciting. It's just the first batch of the blackberries off the hedge behind me here that you can see. So they're a little bit early actually. They're normally end of July, start of August time. But yeah, very much looking forward to those. They're great with like some Greek yogurt with just a bit of honey or something on the top. But enough of that sort of chat. You're all here to listen about some whiskey. So today's whiskey is Highland Park, 12 years old. Real classic, and actually one of the very big selling single malts actually as well. But one of the whiskies that actually got us interested in whiskey. When I personally, when I first tasted it maybe 12 or 13 years ago, I didn't know anything about whiskey, and it was a single malt that kind of made me realise that there was something different going on to what I thought in my head that whiskey was. We've all had the bad experience of whiskey when we were at university and never touched the stuff again. But this was the first whiskey that made me realise there was something and something to start exploring. So you've got a real soft spot for Highland Park, and it's a lovely brand as well. As I say, very big selling brand. It's an old distillery. It's one of the oldest that's still actually in operation in Scotland. 1798 it's been there since. It's way up in the Orkney Islands, so just off the north coast of the Highlands, and furthest north single malt distillery in Scotland actually. And it was founded in 1798 by quite a legendary sort of quite an famous or infamous, whichever way you look at it, chap called Magnus Jonsson, and he was famous because he was a priest by day in Kirkwall Cathedral, and then he was a whiskey producer by night, but illegally to start with. So the legend goes, of course, it might be a good bit of marketing, but never let that get in the way of the truth, get in the way of a good story, as they say. Of course, the legend goes that he used to keep his, when the authorities came round, he used to hide his whiskey that he'd made illegally under the altar and around the cathedral, so of course the authorities wouldn't dare or dream to check. So a lovely story, but and a whiskey that's has a bit of a soft spot, very very sort of dear to me. So it's one of the whiskies I always go back to as well. There's always a bottle of this and a couple of the others that got us interested in whiskey, sort of lying about the house. It's a bit like going back to it, and it gives you, it's like a hug from an old friend, that type of thing. But let's have a little taste. You can see lovely golden colour. It's quite sweet on the nose. It's quite sort of rich sweet, sort of bit of honey, bit of dried fruits. They mix the bourbon and sherry cask together to create the whiskey here, and there's also just an underlying bit of smoke here, like the peat smoke, but it's quite soft. Let's have a taste. Yeah, that's it comes through really again on the palate, what I just described on the nose. It has this lovely sort of elegance. There's a lovely sort of richness with honey. It's a bit like sort of heather honey, something with a bit more flavour, just rather than your sort of regular honey. It's like heather honey, something like that. And then there's this dried fruits, quite dark dried fruits, and a bit of caramel or toffee, something like that. So the combination kind of makes me think of like a rich fruit cake or Christmas cake. But then underneath you've got this sort of soft, gentle smoke. So I certainly wouldn't describe it as a smoky whiskey, you know, like you would for, say, an Islay whiskey, you know, Western Isles, Scotland whiskey, something like that. But there is some peat there, but it has this sort of elegance. It's softer and gentler and sweeter type of smoke than you tend to get from Islay or those other places that I mentioned. So absolutely delicious whiskey, and as I say, just one that we keep going back to. You know, we enjoy it, and you know, I'm very thankful to, you know, whiskies like this Highland Park 12, because without tasting things like this, then, you know, I may not have got into whiskey, or certainly, you know, wouldn't have been working in the whiskey industry and doing all the things that I'm doing now. So, you know, from me and the Highland Park 12, my old friend, cheers, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheers. Yeah, just like a big hug from an old friend.